Yo, what's up guys? It's CJ here with a Back for Blood rebuild. Yes, that's right, a rebuild. So this is the melee build. Now I have rebuilt it. It's absolutely insane. The amount of attack speed, damage you can get off, and like healing that you can get off with this build it's just incredible. I've been running it personally the last couple of days on no hope difficulty, just literally walking through the ridden as they come at me. Of course, there's the things you need to worry about, so things like it doesn't have breakout in it, so if you're playing solo, that's something you might want to incorporate into the build, etc. That's something I'll cover later on in the video. Also, if you have been enjoying the videos and you do want to kind of say hey and things like that, please go check out my Twitch, come say hello. Right now we're playing through some 7 Days to Die, so if you have played that game, then you know all about it. But for now, let's get into the build. Okay, so the first set of 5 cards to kick it off, we have the first card being Meth Head, then Raisin, Berserker, Heavy Hitter, and Battle Lust. So first card, Meth Head. Each melee swing that you do is going to give you 5% melee speed and 5% stamina efficiency for 6 seconds, and that stacks up to 10 times, which is crazy. Also, your melee attacks are no longer going to stick in tougher enemies, so usually if you hit like a tall boy without this card, your attack will stick in it, which does make your attack a little bit slower. This eliminates that. Now, one thing to know about Meth Head, it does disable your ability to aim down sights. Albeit there is a bit of a strange bug. I suppose you could class it as a bug. Even though it disables your aim down sights, you can still aim down sights with your main weapon. Now, this is something I have done previously. It is something you do need to worry about, because if you have a primary weapon out and you're trying to run over to a teammate to revive them, etc., if you are aim down sights, you will have your aim down sight movement speed rather than your normal speed. So just be aware of it. If you're visually attuned, you can see the difference between when you're not aim down sights and when you are aim down sights. So that's something you can tell the difference in, but just something really to be aware of, because it's something that's messed me up just recently. Moving on to the second card of the first set, we got Brazen. This is going to give you 15% melee stamina efficiency and 20% melee attack speed. It does also give bow stamina efficiency and bow attack speed, but we don't need to worry about that for this build. Then third card, Berserker. Now Berserker is crazy, especially in combination with other melee efficiency cards and with the Meth Head card, because this is going to give you 5% melee damage, 5% melee speed, and 5% move speed for 4 seconds. Now, when you combine that with the max stack of Meth Head, it does combo off each other, and it does mean you're going to attack a super speed. Super speed. You can see it in the intro where I'm just absolutely flying with the melee attacks. That's the full comboed speed. Then we have Heavy Hitter. Now this is a really important card. Heavy Hitter will mean that the first time you hit a ridden, it will always stumble them. And this is really important, because in that stumble time, you can build up more stumble damage, and you can stumble things for quite a bit of time. It does give you a big opening, and also allows your team, if they're focused, to focus on your stumbled target. For instance, if you hit the hag and that stumbles it, your team can entirely focus her, she can't do anything, and you just absolutely hammer her with bullets. Then, final card of the first set, Battle Lust. This means that every melee kill you gain, you're going to gain 1 health and 0.125 trauma. This is really good for recovering your health. Now, there is a lot more healing to be talked about later on in the build. There is a lot of different things as well, but the first thing that I will say about it is that trauma is huge. The fact that you can gain a HP or 1.25 HP every 10 kills, and let's say you're running through 100, that's 12.5 trauma resistance that you will have recovered. So 12.5 hit points worth. Now, with the extra trauma resistance, the healing you're going to have, the temporary health you're going to have, etc., that's huge recovery to make sure that you stay healthy and able. That completes the first set of 5 cards. So let's go on to the second set of 5 cards. The first card being durable. Then we have scar tissue, adrenaline fueled, mean drunk, and our favorite spiky bits. So first card here, durable, we know it, we love it. It's going to give us 15% trauma resistance, 10 health and 20% fire resistance, which really helps on No Hope to deal with those incendiary zombies, or ridden I should say. And then we have scar tissue, which is going to mean that you take 1 less damage from all ridden. 1 less damage is a huge amount. It doesn't seem like it is, but it is when spread around a lot of ridden. And it's also going to give us 50% acid resistance, which is really important on No Hope because for some reason it just loves throwing acid zombies at us. Then we have adrenaline fueled. This is for your stamina gain. So whenever you kill an enemy, you're going to gain 5 stamina instantly and an additional 7 stamina regen over 7 seconds. So you're going to recover 1 stamina per second for 7 seconds, which is great. And that does stack up to 5 times, which means you can keep your stamina regenning for a very, very long time. Then we have Mean Drunk. Now this is primarily for the buff in melee damage, so a 40% increase, which is huge, but also it means your melee attacks are going to cleave through enemies. Now this deals damage in an arc, so instead of just dealing damage to the person you're aiming at, you're going to deal damage to everybody in kind of like an arc or C shape in front of you. Now just be aware, because if your teammates do run in front of you or to the sides of you, you will probably also hit them, especially when we go over some attachments a little bit later on in the video to make your build really stand out. Then we've got the last card of the second set. This is Spiky Bits. Now Spiky Bits is great. It's going to give us just a standard 15 increase in damage, which is huge, especially with that 40% that we have from Mean Drunk. Then we have 20% damage resistance while using a melee weapon, so that's really good as well. It also will stack with other damage resistances that we get from if one of our teammates gets it or anything like that. Then the last part of this, and just something to be aware of, I know because it's a melee build, it's not something you really care about, but you do lose 15% ammo capacity. Now, because we're using a melee weapon, it doesn't really matter to us, but if you are kind of a support player naturally, and someone on your team goes, I need some AR ammo and stuff like that, you are going to have less ammo to give them. So just be aware of that, okay? So that completes the second set of cards. Let's get on into the third set. The first card here is Ignore the Pain. Then Well Rested. Pumped Up. Face Your Fears. And finally, Fit as a Fiddle. Now, Ignore the Pain is 20% melee damage against mutations, so your tall boys, your hags, your ogres, if you're so inclined. I would not recommend attacking an ogre with a melee weapon, but you know, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Then we're also going to gain health and stamina for each hit that you deal to an enemy mutation. So when you're slapping the hag, or you're smacking a tall boy, or you're attacking a exploder or anything like that, you're going to gain 2 health and 3 stamina for every time you hit them. So it's not based on if you kill them, it's based on every time you hit them, which if we're at max attack speed, we're going to be hitting them a lot and very, very quickly. So that's going to be really useful for tanking out those breakers and for tanking out tall boys, etc. Especially when the no hope difficulty sends hordes of tall boys at you, you can tank them out as long as you don't get displaced by them smacking the ground around you. Then we have well rested. So well rested is going to be a team effect. This is going to give 20% team overheal and 5% team healing efficiency. So overheal is not to be confused with bolstered health. I will go over both of these a little bit later on in the video, but just don't confuse the two of them, okay? Then we have pumped up. Now pumped up is great because it's going to mean our temporary health is going to decay 20% slower. We're going to have additional pain med spawns in the map, which aren't really too kind of beneficial for us because we want to be gaining our temporary health through just pure melee damage. But generically speaking, your teammates could use the pain meds. Who doesn't love a bit of temporary health, right? Then we're also going to gain 5% increase to our health, which is really huge for a tank meta build. Then we have Face Your Fears. Now Face Your Fears is really good. I will say just be aware because the attachments that we're going to go over, one of them does kind of negate this a little bit, but if you're walking towards the Ridden as you're swinging, you should be fine. But Face Your Fears is going to give us 1 temporary health whenever you kill a Ridden within 2.5 meters, which is really, really handy for that early game generation of health. Then Fit as a Fiddle. This is going to be another team effect, and this is going to give us 20% team bolstered health and then 5 team health. So I know that we were going to go over bolstered health and overheal a little bit later on, so we will go over the full set of 15 cards, which will be right here. And let's talk about the overheal and bolstered health. So overheal converts a portion of healing done beyond your maximum to temporary health, okay? And then bolstered health is the amount beyond your normal maximum health that you can gain as temporary health, okay? So you could have overheal, you could have 20% overheal, but if you don't have any bolstered health, you won't be able to heal anywhere over your normal maximum, okay? So say if your bolstered health is 0, then your overheal will not give you anything on top of your normal health, okay? But if you have, say, a 50% bolstered health and you have 100 HP, you will be able to gain temporary health up to 150%, or 150 HP, sorry. So that's the kind of way it works, and the overheal then is basically how much of the healing that you're doing to yourself gets added as temporary health. So if you're doing 100 damage and you have 50% team overheal, then you will gain 50 health in healing beyond your maximum as temporary health. I hope that makes sense to you guys. If it doesn't, and you'd like me to further explain it in maybe a different video, etc., go over the healing effects, etc., then please let me know in the comments. But I hope I've done a good enough job of kind of describing that for you guys. So let's talk about weapons. So the weapon I would say to start you off down the path of melee should be the baseball bat, or maybe the machete. Now, the baseball bat and machetes have the fastest attack speed and fastest damage that you can get out of the melee weapons. The fire axe is great, but it does take too much stamina, and the mini hatchet I feel doesn't have enough reach when you're attacking with it to be able to warrant the use of it. Now, with regards to melee weapons, there is no melee weapon in the game quite like the claws. So I would say as soon as you can, even if it's like a green or blue baseball bat and it's grey claws, switch it out. Unless, and this is a big unless you have all of the attachments for the baseball bat. Now, as I said, we're going to come on to attachments in just a minute, but if you have all of the attachments but you do not have the ability to unbolt them, then what I would say is just stick with the baseball bat, go through the motions, you're good. If you can unbolt them, swap them onto some claws as soon as humanly possible, because the claws are just the best melee weapon in the game. There's no way, no how, no argument about it. They are just the best melee weapon in the game. Okay, so let's go over the attachments. So the attachments you should be running, I don't usually go over these in my videos, but it's really important to go through the attachments that you can get and what you should get. Now, I do have a full attachments video coming out for melee and bow to talk about each of the attachments and legendary attachments, so look out for that. But for the time being, the different slots on the melee weapons can be separated into kind of which slot they are. So you have the material slot, the grip slot, and the handguard slot. Now, personally, what I have found to work best in every scenario is for the material slot to go resonant metals, then the grip slot to go tactical grip, and then finally the handguard slot to go extended handle. So the reason to go resonant metals in the material slot is because you're going to every time you kill something, you're going to gain 1 extra health, and obviously we have that bolstered health and healing as well, so it's going to buff us and keep us at that kind of temporary health maximum. At its max, it's going to do 3 health per kill, which is a huge amount of healing if you're just chopping through Ridden like no tomorrow. Now, the other thing that you can kind of substitute for the materials is steel reinforcement, and that's for damage resistance. It's up to you whether you go with that. Personally, I think resonant metals just to keep your health on that temporary maximum, because you already have some damage resistance, trauma resistance, etc. However, that's completely up to you. Again, as I will reiterate, we are going to come out with a video about all of the melee and bow attachments and legendary attachments and what each does, etc. So be aware of that. If you do need to know immediately, like you need to know exactly what does what and when now, I would recommend highly to go to the Back 4 Blood wiki. I will put the link for the attachments into the description, guys. Then we moving on to grips. So we have tactical grip. Now, tactical grip is by far the best. The other ones are going to give you swap speed, move speed. We don't need any of that stuff. So tactical grip is going to just buff your melee attack speed. Now, if you get that at the base, it's going to give you 10% melee attack speed on top of your method cards and your berserker cards, etc., which is going to mean that you attack incredibly fast, especially with the claws. Then finally we have the handguard attachments. Now this one is a bit of a half and half. You can go extended handle, or you can go titanium spikes. Now I'll talk about titanium spikes in just a minute, but the extended handle is going to give you 10% melee attack range, which means your arc, if you imagine that C in front of you, the C shape that you usually do in the arc when you're using a baseball bat or the claws, that gets extended by 10% of your melee attack range. And then at max, that's going to be 20%, which means that you're going to hit things quite a bit in front of you, and that kind of plays off the Face Your Fears card that I was talking about earlier. So you could kind of swap that out and put something else in that gives you, maybe if there's something else you got that gives you bolstered health, or you know, you're finding that you want to have that attack speed all of the time, so you add in slugger or whatever that looks like. But that melee attack range is just going to be the difference between you being able to hit like one of the acid ridden in front of you and not be stood directly in the acid pool, and you having to hit them at point blank range and have them explode on you and be stood in the acid pool. You do have titanium spikes, which is also a really viable alternative, and titanium spikes is just straight up a damage increase. So at base it's 10% increase in damage, at its maximum is 20% increase in damage. You can absolutely go titanium spikes. I personally prefer the melee attack range because then I can just walk forwards while holding left click and just eliminate everything in front of me. It really helps for kind of online play when playing with friends, because as long as they stand behind you, anything other than a mutation in front of you should just immediately die. So it's really, really good to be able to clear out those hallways and things like that. And as long as your team stands behind you and clears out those mutations as you get to them, you're really good for walking through the no-hope difficulty levels. So let's get on to cleaners. Now, as you all know, there are multiple cleaners that you can use with this build. We've talked about them previously. My cleaner that I run with this build is Holly, and that's just purely because of her passives. But you can also run this with Evangelo and Charisse. Now, I will go over each one and why each one benefits, and we'll start with Evangelo and move her down. So Evangelo, the reason why you could start with him is because he has the breakout ability. So every 60 seconds, he's going to gain the ability to break out. Now, one thing I will say is if you get lucky and the cards choose you when you're in game, you might be able to find the breakout card in game and then you'll be fine for the entire run. Or you might want to run a burn card to be able to gain the breakout ability for you and your friends. I don't know about you guys, I have tons of burn cards, so that's something that reasonably I could do every round, is just give my team the ability to break out. But that's his passive, and that's why he's a very viable melee character. He also starts with a machete, which is a really good melee weapon. He also gains 25% stamina regen. Not so important with this melee build because generically your stamina efficiency is enough that you will never need to worry about stamina for melee attacking. It's just when you're sprinting around, if you've got nothing near you, that kind of comes into play. And he also gives 5% team move speed. Again, not really something we're too worried about with this particular build. So I would say Evangelo would be kind of like the lower person that you would choose. Unless if you're playing offline, I can understand why you would go with the Evangelo unless you're putting the breakout card into your deck. But generically speaking, that's up to you guys. Then we have Holly. Now Holly, also just on a sidetrack note, how cool is this skin? Like, how absolutely cool is this skin? I'm blown away by it. It's fantastic. Anyway, so Holly's passive is that she will gain 1 health when she kills a Ridden. She gains 25 stamina, which is just a standard increase, and she and the rest of her team gain 5% damage resistance, which is great. Now, with the fact that she has 1 health when she kills a Ridden, if you combine that with Resonant Metals, even at base level, you double her passive. So you gain 2 health per Ridden killed. And then at max, she'll have 4 health per Ridden killed. And that's not including anything in your deck. That's just Holly's passive and the Resonant Metals attachment. So I will say that Holly has got to be my favorite, just because she's my favorite character. The skin looks sick. But also, I think that healing is invaluable. Now, a lot of people in the comments on my first melee build said that Charisse was the be-all and end-all for the melee. And I will say, the reason why is probably for that 25% team bolstered health, because we've already got in the deck 20% team bolstered health. With Charisse's, that's a massive 45% team bolstered health. And that's, again, just Charisse's passive and what we have in the deck. So she is very, very viable, especially because say for instance, I've only been able to get Holly to a maximum health with temporary health of say around 170. With Charisse, I was able to get it up to around the 211 mark, 213, somewhere around there at absolute maximum. I'll see if I can find the clip and show you right here. But yeah, so 213 maximum, and Holly I was only able to get to 170. However, Holly does have a more consistent health regen than Charisse does. So I will say that it's very, very important to know what the strengths are. Charisse, really good with the 25% trauma resistance as well, because it just means that it's really difficult to do any trauma damage to you. So Charisse and Holly I would both say are like S+ tier. Evangelo is like a B, and then a lot of people did say about Heng as well in my first build, but honestly I don't see it. I don't see it. I think if you were to run like a food-based build, or add in the food scavenger card to the build, maybe you could say that Heng would be worth it. However, it's much more effective to let Heng be a teammate and just gain the extra food from that instead. Personally, him gaining the actual buffs of food that his teammates eat, that's really good, but I just don't see him as a viable melee character, unfortunately. Okay, so that's the full melee rework build, and we kind of added in a little bit of information around attachments and that kind of stuff. So I really hope that this has been a little bit more informative. I know it'll be a bit of a longer video, so I do apologize for the fact that it's so long, and I hope you guys do enjoy the longer videos and the ones that take a little bit more explaining. Again, I just want to say a massive thank you to the love and support on YouTube. I hope you guys are enjoying these builds. I did come out with some Sea of Thieves content, which was kind of like an adventure that I had with a young lad on the seas, which was really fun and a wholesome adventure I did on Twitch. So if you do kind of like Sea of Thieves and you want to check that out, please do. It's going to be the ending link. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next build or the attachments video, hopefully next week. Peace out, guys.